Hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux Community Podcast. It is the 22nd of December 2023, so it is the 12th month, and that can only mean one thing. It is the lead up to Christmas Day, to Christmas Eve, and it is, of course, Advent. So, we've got all this interesting Christmassy stuff coming up. And of course, the news cycle is very much going to reflect that this week. However, there's still a lot of tech news coming out. In fact, probably more than usual. So we definitely do have some stories to cover. So first off, we are going to cover Windows 10 Mobile being ported to a MacBook. So this is, of course, in the mobile news section. I could have put it in the miscellaneous section because, it's a MacBook. So really, is it the mobile section? I really shouldn't have put it under the Android section like I did. So maybe I'll relocate that quickly just to the general section. Because, yeah, that is actually a Windows Phone story, realistically. And yeah, apparently somebody's ported this Windows mobile operating system to their MacBook. And now it's running on this old MacBook. And yeah, pretty cool looking. It's kind of cool to see the Metro UI on this MacBook. It looks not exactly the best user experience for a MacBook, given, how many live tiles there are and how live tile and touch centric, Windows Phone is, or was, I guess, because, Microsoft no longer support Windows Phone. I guess it is, was. But yeah, of course, this is not recommended. You shouldn't install this port, because, for one thing, it's just a port of Windows Phone that probably hasn't been properly tested, and of course will not be supported by Microsoft, and maybe not even by the actual developer who ported it. So overall, please don't try and, install this on your main MacBook and go like, hey, I've got Windows Phone, unless you just want to, mess around with your MacBook and you've got no other use for it. Because, yeah, this could wreck your MacBook. However, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are your
Aren't
thoughts,
the
Biggest?
security updates far gone?
Yeah, the security updates are far gone on Windows Phone. Even Windows Phone 10 last received a security update back in 2020, I think. Yeah, it says here January 2020 was the last Windows 10 mobile, security update, because that's when it officially reached EOL, end of life. So, yeah. Anyway, apart from that very pointless story, it's a bit fun.
Cool story, yeah.
It's cool, but it's also really, you're not gonna have any purpose for that.
Useless.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
totally useless because, why would you install a discontinued operating system onto your MacBook apart from if you're just having a bit of fun, you like to tinker with your computer. That's the only reason I could think of for installing this. And also maybe to mess around with Windows Phone OS and maybe develop some Windows Phone apps. Although, that's not really a
Yeah.
specifically good use case anymore. Unless
Mm-hmm.
you're making some jailbroken apps or something. I don't know. Anyway, moving on to the next story. Android's nearby share is now being rebranded to QuickShare. So previously, Google launched this nearby share feature to compete with AirDrop. So this was the kind of, direct Google competitor to AirDrop to give Android one of these pretty cool features, allowing people to transfer files and text over a network using this kind of intuitive interface. Pretty cool. However, now it's got this little bit of a different name and a little bit of a different icon. to signify some of the changes which have took place to the nearby share kind of app. However, it's still very similar. It's just basically a name change, to signify that they're still trying to do stuff with it, I guess. Google do a lot of name changes, so it's not really surprising to see them shifting names here. Maybe to keep it a bit more new and fresh, I guess. What are your thoughts, Piggis? Okay, so moving right along to the Apple news. So this is the headline story, really. This is quite an interesting one. So Apple has officially halted Watch Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra 2 sales in the US. So this does not specify, this news article does not specify the US. It really should, because this is only happening in the US. You can still buy it in the UK, I think. But yeah, effectively they've been sued for infringing on another company's patents. I think it's this company here, a health tech company, Massimo. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. But basically they've had quite a big dispute with this company, and now there has been a ruling, which basically Apple's just decided, you know what, we're just gonna halt these sales for the time being, and they're just gonna put it on pause, and until they come to more legal clarity, I guess. You won't be able to buy these latest models in the US. So, what do you think, Piggis? This is quite a big story, especially when it comes to people, maybe wanting to buy a last-minute holiday present for the holiday season. That they might get quite excited about buying a Apple Watch, and then they can't because the latest model has kind of been has been removed from sale by the main from the actual by the actual manufacturer. What are your thoughts, Biggest? Those are some thoughts. Okay, so moving right along to the gaming news. So the ESRB, quite big news here. The ESRB has apparently started slapping blockchain games with the adults only rating. So, if you want to play some of these blockchain games, which involve blockchain, then you're gonna have to deal with these adult only ratings, and that does mean that, of course, some platforms will delist these titles because they have such a high rating. I mean, it's above even the 17 plus rating in the US. This is the highest rating you can get. So this is not good for these games. However, Epic has changed their store policy to allow for adults-only rated games, which use blockchain technology, which of course are not, pornographic or anything like that. Yeah, so basically they've just made a little change there to allow the games that were already allowed on the store to continue, being sold and continue being on the storefront. Now we're gonna have to see what other, games retailers do about this. Steam banned NFT games in 2021, as it says here in the article. But of course, Epic don't have any issue with these NFT games and these blockchain-based games. However, we're gonna have to see what other retailers do about these games, and whether they'll be, removed from sale by those retailers, or whether they'll just ignore the rating and continue selling them. What are your thoughts, Piggis? Pretty big news for the blockchain games. Not good for them, is it?
If
Okay, so okay, so I'm not really getting much from Piggis here. So we will continue on, I guess, unless you want to say anything, Piggis.
You can go ahead, Neil.
Okay, so continuing on to the next story, another story in the gaming section. So the GTA 6 hacker apparently is now facing indefinite imprisonment in hospital. So the 18-year-old hacker from Oxford has apparently been sentenced to this very long term in a hospital. So it's apparently indefinite. And yeah, this is really bad news for this hacker, of course. And yeah, of course, they've committed quite a big crime by leaking this intellectual property here and leaking these trailers. However, I think this is a bit harsh, putting somebody in indefinite imprisonment in hospital because they hacked a games company and stole some of their trailers. I kind of get it, it is kind of not good to be stealing people's intellectual property, but this is quite a harsh thing to do. Apparently, his autism led to the trial, basically making him unfit to stand standard trial, in the traditional sense of trial. So instead, he's basically facing this indefinite imprisonment in hospital instead of course, going to actual jail. So this isn't good news for him. However, you can kind of expect this when people are violent, when people kind of have these problems, and they also have committed such crimes, when it comes to the actual law. Because, stealing this kind of stuff is quite a big sentence, comes along with it. And yeah, not really surprising to me. What do you think, Piggy?
Wasn't there like other things he did too?
Yeah,
I think I heard something about that.
yeah, I think
Like,
he was he a member of Lapis, or what's her name again? Lapsus? I don't know. You know the hacking group, right?
uh,
Anyway, he did some other stuff, definitely.
mm,
Yeah, he
do you think
apparently.
that's
Yep. Sorry.
is this only about the GTA stuff, or I'd assume it's more, right?
I would assume it's like every single thing he's
Yeah.
done. Yeah. So he's gonna stand in trial for that. Which of course adds a lot to the potential punishment. If you're that kind of repeat offender, you're gonna see more time. And if you have this, that you're deemed not to be kind of suitable for prison, then you could be put into a hospital. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so continuing on to a slightly more positive story. We're moving on to the UK ISP news here. So the UK ISP Quickline is apparently connecting 4 more rural villages to full fibre. So this is quite good news for these villages, and it does show some of the development in the fibre infrastructure across the UK, that they're now managing to reach some of these more remote places, and it shows the increased investment in gigabit fiber in the UK, and the fact that these smaller ISPs are taking advantage of it, such as Quickline here. What are your thoughts, Pigus? I mean, is there really much of an increase in kind of smaller ISPs in Sweden right now? What's the situation now?
I don't really keep up with that, so it's nothing I've heard about.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of got to be in certain kind of you've got to read
Mm,
certain news to really keep up with the ISP stuff. Um, yeah, or be in the industry, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really the long and short of it, I feel. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. Still in the UK broadband and fibre section. So these two small ISPs, Freedom Fibre and VX Fibre, both of which I have not really come across before, have apparently decided to fully merge their two full fibre networks. So right now, Freedom Fibre's network is mostly covering Cheshire, Greater Manchester, Greater Greater Manchester, and Shropshire, in England and North Wales. And VX Fibre is mainly covering places in Staffordshire, such as Stoke-on-Trent, Leek, Cannock, and Penkridge, as well as Colchester in Essex, and apparently parts of London, and Haverhill in Suffolk. So there's a few others here, such as Crewe, Bristol, and Uttoxeter. And these are some kind of different regionally located networks here. And them joining forces means that they will have better coverage overall, because they're not really having too many places where both of them both have some coverage. It's really an either or, so it's kind of good to see a merger here, I feel. However, of course, you could argue it's more it could lead to more anti-competitive behavior in the space, because with the consolidation of ISP providers, there's less and less competition, which allows companies to compete less and, get more profits, which could end up leading to a lack of innovation in the, fiber sector, and could lead to increased prices for consumers in the long run. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens here, I guess. Have you got any thoughts, Pigus? I feel like the UK fiber news isn't really your domain, so your thoughts might be quite limited here. But of course, there was still some stuff to comment upon, I guess. Okay, so I have a feeling you don't really have that many thoughts on the UK fiber news. So why don't we move on to something slightly more international here? Fedora Linux is now available in for all of the Apple Silicon Macs but one of them. So now you can run Fedora Asahi Remix on macOS by by running this command and installing it. However, apparently one Mac is not currently supported. I'm not totally sure which one it is at right this second. Because
Mhm.
can you see, Pigus, which one it isn't supporting?
The Mac Pro.
The Mac Pro. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you have that device, I guess you're out of luck when it comes to Asahi
You'll
Remix.
have to you'll have to wait for Fedora 40.
Okay, so you might be waiting for a small bit, and yeah, overall, if you paid that much money for your computer, you would hope that you get Fedora slightly more promptly. However, of course, because it's one of the newer releases, I suppose maybe Fedora doesn't have full support for it yet. So we'll have to wait for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what's going on with Fedora Linux on Apple Silicon. But a pretty exciting development, especially being able to just run this command and be able to install the latest build.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next story here in the new AI section. Because there's so much AI stuff in the news, I've decided to make a dedicated AI section for that news on this show, so we can just discuss it here, and we can actually, have a dedicated section because it usually makes up quite a major chunk of the miscellaneous news. So the UK Supreme Court has ruled that AI is not an inventor. So this ruling follows a similar decision denying patent registrations naming AI as creators. So apparently, the UK Supreme Court does not view AI as a creator, and therefore AI cannot get patents because it cannot be a creator because there were humans behind the AI. Now, this was a unanimous decision. Apparently, the petition which an AI system inventor made, was apparently denied unanimously. So, that is pretty damning for his cause, for the cause of this. AI being a creator according to UK law. And yeah, this could have effects when it comes to patents, whether they'll award patents for AI created stuff, because it appears that they will not be able to award it to AI. But yeah, this isn't really unexpected from the UK Supreme Court, but it is still something to keep in mind, I guess, for AI developers. What do you think, Piggis?
Yeah.
Okay, no thoughts, I'm guessing? Okay.
So
Yeah. Anyway, let's just continue right along. Microsoft Copilot can now apparently create music. So, of course, they've been adding skills to Copilot slowly, and now one of these new skills is being able to create music. So, this is quite an interesting one. You know, who knows how good this music will be? Probably not that great. Of course, it probably wouldn't be that original, but you can now generate some songs with Copilot, and it just shows some of the features which Microsoft have been adding to the chatbot to make it a bit more fully featured. Now, what do you think, Pigus, about the Copilot adding some extra functionality here?
yeah, I guess it's cool.
I guess it's
Uh,
cool. That's what we're going with. It is pretty cool, to be honest. Being able to actually have music generated using this cloud AI, pretty cool, to be honest. You can do it through your Microsoft account. Copilot is one of the better AI tools
mm.
right now, and so yeah.
But to be fair, I mean, as it looks like the like audio AI already exists.
Yeah, they've
Right? They
apparently.
just incorporated something that uh, is it another company, I think.
It's Suno,
Yeah.
apparently. They
Yeah.
partnered with Suno to create original songs using AI. Who knows how original, really? but it will be interesting to see what this AI comes up with. I'm sure the internet will let us all know, given that this is a very mainstream thing. The Copilot, many people use Copilot, so I'm sure we will see a lot more stuff with ordinary people trying out this feature. And we'll just have to see what comes of it, I guess. Anyway, moving.
Feels like it's just
Oh,
AI is just getting more and more bloated, in my opinion.
yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
being added to these AI tools, and maybe not all of it is necessary, but some of it is nice to have, I guess. Anyway, moving on to the next story. And also, yeah, really, it's what happens with buzzword technologies. People want to add more and more stuff to it. It's logical, I guess. But anyway, moving on to the next story here. Google is testing an AI support assistant to answer your questions about Google services. So this will be using artificial intelligence to answer these questions that you might give it about Google, and give some support when it comes to Google services. So I guess this is cool. You might want to actually speak to a real human, but maybe this will be a better way of accessing Google's vast web of information. They have a lot of forum posts, a lot of different resolved things. Let's just hope they don't screw up some complicated Google account issue. I know they're out there, so many problems with trying to transfer things over with YouTube accounts and stuff. Let's hope that nobody, ends up taking wrong advice from the Google
Mm.
support assistant and then accidentally deleting their Google account or YouTube account. I'm sure it'll happen if the AI isn't trained properly and isn't cautious enough. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. What do you
Mm.
think, Pigus?
I mean, there's a lot of, as you say, simpler problems that could very easily be used. This AI support assistant can be used for.
Yeah, you can ask some simple questions, and a lot of the questions people are asking will be quite simple and quite easy
Mm.
for these AI models to handle. However, sometimes there's those out there questions that are slightly, not that many answers exist. Maybe none on the
Yeah.
Google forums, or maybe there's different answers out there on the Google forums, and that might confuse the AI or make it screw up its answers.
Hopefully they've done a bit more testing compared to like when they introduced Bard and
Let's
the
I don't really have that much faith in Google
yeah.
to test, to not just push out things without fully testing it first. Because, it seems a bit of a Google move to do that. But, of course, we'll just have to wait and see whether, this is a fully tested thing and whether it, fully works. But, of course, there's always those edge cases. There's always those extreme examples which, they've got to be able to have the AI deal with, but they may not be able to test for.
Like, would you be able to sue Google if you follow this AI assistant and it tells you to delete your YouTube account?
It most likely says something where they probably the Google lawyers have most likely looked through this and realized, yeah, let's add a clause that says if you use this AI, then you have zero legal comeback
Oh,
for this.
yeah.
That sounds like something that the Google lawyers would quickly jump on, and if they haven't, somebody out there at Google, if you're watching, that's probably a good idea, isn't it? But yes, who knows? Maybe they'll forget that, and maybe they'll get sued, and then maybe they'll lose a lot of money. However, in personal cases, they get sued for so much money these days. Personal cases will probably be the least of it, unless it's class action. Then it might be pretty bad. Unless like 20 people delete their Google account, using the Google AI, and then all just class action lawsuit all filed a class action lawsuit against Google, together.
Mm.
That'll be very bad for Google. Let's hope for them it doesn't happen and for their corporate profit. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Unless you have any thoughts, Piggers.
Mm.
Yes. Okay, so Airbnb was fined over $10 million for charging users in the US currency. I must say this is in the miscellaneous section, not the new AI section. This is not AI really. But yeah, so apparently Airbnb was fined, $10 million, which is quite a bit, really. But, maybe not for a big company like Airbnb. It's a sizable fine, I guess. But apparently, it's because, they were charging Australian users in US currency, which is very cheeky. You know, Australian currency is not as valuable as US currency, and therefore they'll see a cheaper price and they'll go like, yeah,
Mm.
I'm gonna buy this. This looks really cheap. And they hit buy, and then they realize, hang on, this is in US dollars, not Australian dollars. It's converted over, and then suddenly they spent way more on the flight than what they actually, on their accommodation than they really expected to, and that is very bad. That's very, that's really not something that should slip past Airbnb, given that, of course they will have developers, which will work on regionalization. So you just hope that they would fix something like this much quicker. However, apparently, between um, 2018 and 2021, they listed prices in US dollars, not Australian dollars, and now they have had to pay compensation. $10 million of compensation for this. For these, for these conversions that, have had to take place, and the fact that, they basically did just mislead consumers by using these US prices in Australia. What do you think, Piers? I mean, you of course have to convert currency when it comes to different things, because, Swedish krona or whatever, but krona's quite far away from, like, the euro in, like, conversion, isn't it? If you saw a euro
Mm.
price, you would know it's a euro price, not a krona price.
Yeah.
You'd be like, that's
Yeah.
very cheap. That, or, yeah.
That would be cheap, yeah.
Hmm,
But yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Did it take up until now before they find them or what? Because it was between 2018 and 2021.
I think they've only found them now because, they're looking at this retroactively, and, you can still find people for things they did in the past. I think some people need to. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But, you can get fined for things you
Yeah.
did in the past. Do remember that.
Yeah, but it's like, why didn't they bother with doing anything until now?
It was probably in the courts for a bit, I'm guessing. Maybe now it's
Mm.
only found its way, to a judgment now.
Mm.
So yeah, of course, the court system, as we know from, different cases, it can take a while. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's the reason why I think this happened. It took so long for them to make this decision. So, WhatsApp will now allow you to share music with friends during video calls, and this will be available on both iPhone and Android. So both platforms will be getting this feature. I guess it's cool for these WhatsApp users. They can now share music during these video calls, and yeah, effectively, share a bit of this, musical taste, maybe, or maybe you want to show what you're currently listening to, and that this is a really good way of sharing music, I guess. So this will be a pretty cool feature for WhatsApp. This is a slightly less, I heard, you said the other week, Pigus, that,
Mm.
they implement these features that are so obvious, but this one isn't so obvious, is it?
I mean, other they aren't first on the market with this though.
No, but this one's slightly less obvious. However, we still do see every week WhatsApp slowly adding features. I'm sure they could add features quicker. Maybe they're just trying to keep their app fresh. Slowly adding these features. I guess WhatsApp is a
So,
big app. Maybe they
mm,
just add more features throughout the years. But surely it must cause bloat, mustn't it? That they have so many features in WhatsApp. I don't know.
It's not only about music, it's any audio can be
Oh, okay.
shared.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's cool, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also that means that you don't have to use specific, um, you don't have to use like specific audio apps, like specific streaming apps,
No, no.
which is good. So you can just stream more MP3s or whatever. And yeah, that's cool. Now a bit of a weird one here. Apparently, Amazon will no longer sell donkey meat in the state of California. So if you're planning to buy donkey meat this Christmas, you can no longer do it on Amazon in California because of a negotiations which took place between Amazon and the Center for Contemporary Equine Studies. So apparently, to protect horses, they have decided to stop selling this donkey meat. And apparently, it said that, this might actually be in violation of California state law, which, their animal rights um, bill. So apparently, there's the Prohibition of Horse Slaughter and Sale of Horse Meat for Human Consumption Act, which was is an act in the state of California which prevents people from doing this kind of stuff, and apparently might be in violation. So they've decided to settle this just by delisting all of these horse meat products. What do you think, Piggy? No more horse meat for the state of California. Not
Bad for
horse
them,
meat
I guess.
and donkey meat, I guess.
Mm.
Oh yeah, so previously you could sell donkey meat, however, now it's being classed as a horse meat type, so that's a kind of a thing that's been added to the stuff that you can no longer sell on Amazon. But you can still buy a lot of strange stuff on Amazon. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. Here's one from the website Torrent Freak. Canal Plus apparently is demanded 7 million euros in court from a streaming pirate, and the court awarded them 60,000 euros. So apparently, the French court just decided, you know what, it's actually a more fair settlement if they, settled for this 60,000 euro settlement. And yeah, apparently, the judge decided that Canal Plus, Canal were being a bit kind of, ambitious with their 7 million euros, a bit unrealistic with their 7 million euro kind of, pushing for 7 million euros because, that isn't really accurate to what their losses were from this, streaming pirate. And it's good to see the courts stopping, these big studios from, just suing these, pirates and suing them for so much money that, realistically, it did not actually cause that amount of damage to them. But, studios feel that they can get away with this kind of, suing. And of course, it's not good piracy. However, it's also not good suing people for more than you actually lost. What do you think, Piggis? What do you think about the morals of this one?
Yeah. Just about what you said, it's like
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So piracy is not good, but neither is suing people for for way too much money when really, you only incurred a small bit of damage. So, small damages, I guess, financially. So now moving on to the next story here, Hyperloop One is reportedly shutting down. So Hyperloop One was Virgin's big Hyperloop project. So it was one of the big Hyperloop kind of companies, and apparently they are now shutting down on December the 31st. And yeah, apparently Hyperloop One went through a few legal battles and a few stuff like that. And yeah, they had some problems with Saudi Arabia apparently, because Richard Branson, who's involved with Virgin, criticized Saudi Arabia, which, for killing somebody, which led to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia pulling the project, and Richard Branson stepping down as CEO, as chairman, I mean. And yeah, overall, this is quite a messy situation. And, they just decided to shut down this company because it wasn't really going anywhere. And of course, this Hyperloop technology hasn't took off in the same way as some people expected. And apart from, VC funding and investor excitement, it hasn't really gone anywhere. What are your thoughts on these Hyperloop things, Pigus? Do you think it's sad that, this company's went bust, or, is it really not much of a loss?
I mean, as you say, uh, the idea behind hyperloops are pretty cool, but if they can't implement it,
Yeah, that's a
it,
real thing.
it,
It's kind of just like, oh yeah, we've got this idea, it will be so much better than trains, but we actually can't implement it. It's like,
mm,
okay, then there's no real point to you having a startup company to work on a thing that can't ever be implemented. I mean, sure, hopefully one day they can get along to this Hyperloop technology, and that'll be a great day. But right now, the technology isn't there, and of course, these startups will just bleed money, so that's not really great for investors. And of course, you're looking really long term on, your
mm,
return on investment. Overall, I'm not giving financial advice here, guys, but overall, it's not particularly a good outlook for the investors. So, this is a kind of an obvious thing to happen, I suppose. Now, moving on to the next story. Why did I include this? Did I mean to include this? I don't want my video to get age restricted. I'm not sure how long you can talk about The Exorcist, but as a movie, but The Exorcist has turned 50 as a quite a famous movie. Uh, Classically kind of regarded as a bit of a horror movie. But apparently one of the main stars, the star Linda Blair, has said that it isn't a horror movie, it's actually a religious thriller. And, there's a lot of religious themes going through that film. It's called The Exorcist. I haven't watched it, actually, so, I can't really comment on what it's like. But, it's apparently meant to be a bit of a scary movie, but, it has a lot of religious themes, of course, being called The Exorcist, casting out demons, all of that stuff. And yeah, overall, it's quite a, religiously themed kind of film, and so this kind of makes sense for the star of this film to comment that about the film. Have you watched The Exorcist, Pigus?
no, I have not. Oh,
Okay.
no.
Apparently meant to be a good film. It's meant to be it's meant to be kind of a bit of a scary film, but it's meant to be a good one. Anyway, moving on to the next story here. Waymo has apparently found its driverless cars are significantly outperforming humans. So these are some this is some data here collected by Waymo. Take it with a pinch of salt. It is Google's own collected data. We'll have to see what organizations like the DMV and in the UK traffic regulator and all of these different traffic regulators say about this driverless technology. However, looking at this, it looks pretty promising. I mean, according to this, in San Francisco, any injury reported was 90%. And police was reported was 70%. So overall, apparently, they're saying that this is reducing the amount of accidents. We'll just have to wait and see how this works out in other cities as it expands, and whether regulators will be on board for this kind of experimental technology, or whether they'll take it a bit slower. I mean, I've seen Tesla's really been pushing on trying to get regulators to kind of step aside and just let them test out their technology on the streets. Elon Musk has been quite passionate about that one. But we'll just have
Mm.
to wait and see what regulators say. And personally, I don't think it's the best to let technology just kind of just test technology on the streets. I suppose it's one way of doing testing. However, it is good to have a little bit of regulation just to prevent things from becoming very unsafe.
Mm.
What do you think, Piggers?
Because, like in regular traffic, as they point out, they are pretty good at navigating um mm, navigating in like regular traffic, but how good are they actually in when some sort of accident occurs?
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Like,
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting question because if an accident does occur, like how is it going to really respond? What how quickly is it going to respond, and will it actually respond? Will it notice the accident, or will
mm,
it just continue onward, pretending nothing happened? You know, yeah. I guess that's a an interesting question.
and then also like those cars have a lot of sensors. If if they start breaking down, like that wouldn't be very good.
Yeah. Those cars breaking down would not be a good thing. If a few things go wrong with the sensors, it
Mm,
could cause the entire thing to, maybe have an accident, and that would not be good. So we'll just have to see it how, AI, not AI, kind of automotive companies developing this technology and tech companies developing this technology respond to this kind of skepticism and the potential problems, and we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
mm.
But do you want to talk a bit about what's going on with the Library Foundation, Piggis? I mean, is there any interesting news from the past week, or is there not really much that you want to discuss?
No, it's nothing much have happened. It
Yeah.
probably won't be much until the next year.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Of course, because you're on the board, you can give some helpful insight on, just kind of what people can kind of expect uh when it comes to, what's going on with the board. And yeah, that's good for our viewers, and yeah, overall quite helpful insight. So thanks for that, Piers.
It's like there's always conversations going on, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you can always go over to the
nothing of
sorry.
nothing official really.
Yeah, you can always go over to the foundation chat, have a little discussion about stuff. And yeah, there's not really much official going on, but there is a lot more activity in the chat. Haven't really been able to fully keep up with it as of late. However, I will keep up with it a bit after the stream, maybe take a little look at it. And yeah, always some interesting stuff going on with Library. Hopefully they can continue, hopefully they can continue being a kind of YouTube alternative in Library, kind of, it still be a valid YouTube alternative. And yeah, if the community can manage to revive it a bit and bring some more creators over, that could only be a good thing, I feel. What do you think, Piers?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about, Piggus? Any stories? I know that you wanted to talk about a couple stories, but, I didn't put them in
Oh,
notes. Sorry about that one. But do you want to talk about them at all, or should I cover them, actually?
I don't remember them, so.
Like the Debian one.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to cover that or not, or what?
So apparently, it looks like Debian in the future will lose 32-bit support.
Oh, yeah, that
That's about it.
that is bad news for 32-bit users, because
Mm-hmm.
right now, you're already getting limited support. Ubuntu dropped 32-bit support ages ago at this point. It was 2019, 2018 they dropped support. I don't remember now, but
Yeah.
it was a while ago, and now, they are planning to drop support. Debian are planning to drop support, which, yeah, it's not going to be good for these 32-bit users. However, if you are still using a 32-bit operating system, then, yeah, this is kind of a death blow to 32-bit computers on Linux. Of course, you can still use certain distros that aren't based on Debian, but I imagine Linux Mint Debian Edition will stop supporting 32-bit operating systems because of this, and Debian will of course will of course no longer support it, and because it's one of the biggest distros out there, we could see a kind of ripple effect here.
Yeah. I mean, if you're technical, you can always build it yourself. It just they won't officially support it.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently,
Like offer.
NetBSD still supports it. So I suppose you can move over
Mm-hmm.
to the BSD side and maybe have a bit of a easier time, and then a harder time
Mm-hmm.
because you're using NetBSD.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So NetBSD, not exactly the most user-friendly operating system out there, but that's besides the point. If you're running a 32-bit computer, you're kind of gonna run whatever you can get when it comes to operating systems, because right now support is really running out on a lot of these options. Now, what was the other story I was planning to cover? There was the Debian stuff. We should probably cover distro releases, shouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. So let's not distro releases. There we are.
Rin,
What do you say? Sorry.
Reno Linux.
Rhino Linux.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so apparently Rhino Linux, if that's correct, has released a. Has it released a new version? Oh yeah, yeah, it has. So this apparently includes more support for Pine 64. It's apparently makes some changes with the Unicorn desktop. So a patch has been merged into Unicorn. So that will be cool for users, giving a bit of some improvements there. And apparently, now the Your System application will display the version number as a pill, and it can now be copied to the clipboard on a click. So that's a nice quality of life feature if you just want to quickly copy your version number. So maybe you can talk about it in a forum, or whatever you want to do with that version number. So you can discuss it. So yeah, that's pretty cool, I guess. Now, I think that's it. I think we have covered the news. I feel, we've covered a distro today. And yeah, overall, thank you guys for watching. You can check out the Sandro Discord server. Of course, if you're in the, if you're watching on YouTube, you can, of course, talk in the chat. But if you're not on YouTube, then you can, of course, head on over to the Discord, sandrolinux.com/Discord. And also, I think I'll be making some changes to my site over the Christmas holidays. And, of course, Merry Christmas, everyone. I forgot to say that previously, but I hope that everybody has a good Christmas, and hope that people also have a good New Year's, because that's always important. Although, I think that there'll be another podcast before New Year's, won't there? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will. So we will be back with you before New Year's, and it will be the 4th day of Christmas. So see you guys in the next one, and yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone, and see you guys next time.